Welcome to Achieving Your Optimal Health. This is a webinar series that began about four or 5 months ago, actually June 12th. And we're on the 21st webinar tonight, if you can believe it. Um, our whole focus is to help those who are participating and also who are going to hear the webinar replays to set a health goal and move toward achieving their optimal health. And we've had such webinar titles as, inflammation, um, your posture, your optimal diet, motivation, energy medicine, and energy healing. We've had a wealth of material here that we've presented in these webinars, and it continues to grow. The webinars are located on my trail running site. Believe it or not, it's the closest I come to a health profession. It's Las Vegas Area Trails, and you click on the health education link, and you can see all the webinars here. All these green ones are webinars that have been completed. And so you click on any one of them or below here, and we'll just take one as an example. Let's do the one on traumatic brain injury recovery. So we click on this, and it goes to a blog page on this webinar Scotty Babb presented. And then you can click here. You can get the entire webinar, listen through it. You can look below for some notes and just a summary of the value of the webinar, what you're going to learn, and the benefits you can experience, and then who is the presenter. And we've got webinar slides that follow, but these are all in the webinar video itself. So we have this for every one of these webinars in green, just a wealth of health knowledge. And the knowledge, once again, is we're always focusing on the purpose of attaining your optimal health. Set a goal, move toward that goal wherever you are now. How do you bridge the gap? And that's in our first of the series on June 12th. We talk about the gap, and we talk about the 5 pillars of health. And we'll let you go ahead and click on that at some point just to see what those 5 pillars are and what that has to do with your optimal health. Tonight, we have a special presenter here. We've got Denise, Dr. Denise Tropea, and she's going to present on a theme that is truly valuable for the holiday season, which is the self-healing properties of yoga and how customized yoga enhances those self-healing properties. And in the webinar, you're going to learn what are the most common forms of yoga practice, how yoga is not just exercise, it's connection with body, mind, and spirit, how to achieve a greater awareness of your body and learn how this is vital to healing yourself, how meridian stretches helps open energy centers in the body, and how blockages of energy are a cause of disease. And all of this to be able to understand yoga practice better, discover what form of yoga is best for your body condition, understand how the connection of body, mind, and spirit should be balanced. And Denise is an awesome person when it comes to um, total balance, which is what we lose often during busy times, especially during a holiday season. And give you a little bit about her background. Denise Tropea is a board certified foot surgeon, has maintained a private practice in Las Vegas for 25 years. She's originally from New York, New Jersey area, and completed her studies at the Scholl College of Podiatry in Chicago. She then went on to complete a 2-year residency in surgery and orthopedics in Salt Lake City before opening her practice in Las Vegas. In 2016, she closed her practice in Las Vegas to follow her passion in health and wellness. Her knowledge of medicine, treatment of chronic conditions, the importance of supplementation and exercise, along with her extraordinary skill as a health educator, gave her the cutting edge in assisting people in creating their optimal mind, body, and soul health. It's all about wellness with Dr. Tropea. She combines nutrition, exercise, and supplementation, which is the foundation to a successful transformation. Every one of us has the power to be the person we dream of. Her knowledge of medicine, treatment of chronic conditions, and the importance of supplementation gives Denise the cutting edge in assisting you in creating optimal health. And the tools that Dr. Tropea utilizes have been proven to guide your mind, body, and soul. This is what health is all about. And the vast majority of people seek the knowledge so they can heal themselves. An initial consultation is the first step to find out what your needs are and how to start the journey. And so I'll turn this over to the good Dr. Denise Tropea and go ahead and take it away.
All righty. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, David. Appreciate the introduction,
You are welcome.
which pretty much sums it up. where I've been to where I am now, and it's it's been a journey like we're all on. And my yoga practice is a journey for me. Got involved in that 10 years ago. My story is that my health was falling apart. My body was falling apart. My mind was racing all the time. I had so much going on that my health started to take a toll. And when I went to the doctors and saw the direction I was going into with everything from diabetes, high blood pressure, heart problems, the first thing I said was, I'm going to start yoga. It just came to me like, that's where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to go from there. I know I have to go on a diet, et cetera, et cetera. So I began doing yoga at a nearby yoga center. And I think that's also what helped too, knowing that my yoga center was right down the road from me. So the convenience of it was very good as well. So when I fell upon doing yoga, it just was something inside of me that said, okay, I'm going to do that because I need to do something that's going to start to assist mind, body, and spirit. And so here I go. I started that 10 years ago, and it essentially just saved my life. I still truly believe that. I don't know where I would have been without it, but that was the time for me in my mid-40s. And so when everybody thinks of the word yoga, what thoughts and images come to your mind? I mean, here I thought of, people, standing on their head, or, you're in that half lotus position, and I'd be like, oh, my knees would be killing me. How can I do that? And, then trying to focus and, clear all your images out of your mind. I mean, everybody has their own preconception of what yoga is. And in order for us to realize that anyone can do a certain discipline, it has to be modified to our bodies and our lifestyles. And so I'm going to discuss different forms of yoga training and how it self-heals. It restores energy flow in the body. And your body condition should coincide with your practice. You know, being maybe a younger person that has a relatively flexible body, relatively no health conditions, can go to, the hot yoga or do some very challenging positions and postures. Or if you have someone that's a little on the older side that, starting to get stiff and sore and has knee problems or back problems, you may want to go with something that is going to be much gentler on the body. So it really just makes sense. You want it to be more enjoyable, because if it's not going to be enjoyable and you're going to be in pain and frustrated, I don't think you're going to go back to class anytime soon. So it's not just exercise, the connection of mind, body, and spirit. And it's really awareness of your body and how vital it is to heal yourself when you are aware of your body. Awareness being is that we go through the day so much in our head, all over here, we're not realizing what's going on below our neck. And different type of pains that we have in our body, say low back pain, uh, wrist pain, knee pain. A lot of that has to do with blockages of energy, which I'll get into later on. But when you have blockages of energy and inflammation that develops, and there's no way for that energy to flow or the circulation to flow, and it stagnates, that's what can cause major problems. Stretching is very vital because that opens up the energy flow of, we call them the meridian channels, but those are your energy channels of your body that course like the highways, that course throughout the world, the states. That's what our meridian channels are. And when we stretch, we're actually helping open up that flow. And it's very, very important as we open up the flow of the energy from the top of our head all the way down to our toes. And then I said before, blockages of energy is the primary cause of certain disease states, whether it be arthritis, heart problems, lung problems, digestive issues, could all be due to blockages of energy. So better understanding of what yoga practices are important to decide what might be the best form for you. And I connected with one type of yoga practice, and maybe it was because it was close and convenient to my home, but I really adapted to it in such a way that I can have people, my members, clients, feel comfortable doing the practice and starting off doing it a certain way, and then progressing to where their body is starting to get more flexible, more adaptable, and they're not feeling as much discomfort. Because the connection of mind, body, and spirit ideally is a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 for optimal health. And that's what we've been talking about for the last number of months here, is what is your optimal health? And your optimal health is different than what mine is, what Joe's is, what Janelle is, and what the rest of the people on our team have. So, what exactly is it? It's a group of physical, mental, spiritual disciplines, and the origin is in ancient India. But in the Western world, we mainly form it as it's exercise consisting of certain postures, and postures being different type of movements, and you're holding those movements for so long, and what you're doing is that you're having the energy flow, etc. And then set stretching of the meridian channels of the body, as I said before, is very important. You must stretch before you do certain postures, and that's all part of when a class is being taught. The stretching is very important. Then you bring in the breathing, deep breathing, breathing in which you are inhaling and exhaling for a certain amount of time. And what you're doing is you're fully oxygenating your body, and you're also clearing your mind. And once you start clearing your mind, especially with the breathing, I know, here you are in traffic and you're so uptight, and you say, okay, so just start breathing. Start taking some nice deep breaths just to kind of relax yourself and help to reduce your stress level. Meditation, people also have a preconception of. They think of someone, sitting there in that lotus posture, crossing their legs with the candles and the music. But meditation can be just something that may last maybe a couple of minutes or a minute or so. What you're doing is you're just clearing your mind and maybe visualizing of a happy place, just so you can calm yourself down. You can even meditate when you're online buying all those Christmas presents and you're in, you're 15th in line and you're saying, oh gosh. But maybe you can just meditate and just kind of relax and go somewhere else for a few minutes. This way you're not thinking about all the things that are around you. And then, of course, relaxation. Relaxation is very important. When we do a relaxation portion of the class, in the beginning stages, I would fall asleep. My body was just so exhausted that I would fall asleep. And then they would have to wake me up. But as time went on, I realized that the relaxation part is where you can actually relax, but you're not asleep, just that your brain waves are now diminished. They're much lower. And so they're putting that whole body into a relaxation mode. And then interesting enough, when Dr. Zahn was talking about the parasympathetic system and the vagus nerve, this is what we're doing with yoga, any type of discipline. You are relaxing the body from the flight or fight mode to the parasympathetic relaxation mode, because that's where healing begins. That's where the cells are able to regenerate. And they are also, hopefully, your longevity as well, with the telomeres getting longer instead of shorter. When telomeres are getting longer, we're actually enhancing our longevity. And relaxation can definitely do that. So there are different types of yoga. Some I have done. There's restorative, people recovering from injury, more like a physical therapy. Hatha yoga is the most popular, gentle movements, postures, and then something that can become more challenging as time goes on. And then prenatal yoga focuses on breathing, also reducing back pain, better sleep for the pregnant mom. Kundalini yoga is freeing the energy that collects at the base of the spine. Very interesting Kundalini yoga, in which you are breaking free a lot of the blockages. We call it our root chakra, which is the root at the base, where is our foundation. And that's where our support system is. That's where the basis of our life is, and all the people around us. And depending on our environment, if we have a toxic environment, a stressful environment, a lot can build up at the base of our spine. And when it does, and all that energy gets blocked, then it's very difficult for that energy to transcend up our bodies, up to our second chakra, which is below our belly button, our solar plexus, which is our stomach area, our heart chakra, which is in our chest, throat, our third eye, our pineal gland, and then our crown chakra. So really the first chakra is the most important, because that then transcends through the whole body. And then Bikram yoga has become very popular, probably in the last 5 years or so. The hot yoga, sauna-like environment. I've done that once. That was enough for me. It was interesting. Yes, you do sweat a lot, but it's always best to check with your doctor first, because if you have certain medical conditions, such as high blood pressure, heart problems, taking certain medications, you may not be able to go into a warm environment such as that. But Bikram yoga has become very popular. All ages, people of all ages do it. They feel that they really get a great workout, losing some of the toxins in their body, because like a sauna, it will burn out the toxins. And then body and brain energy yoga, a Korean form of yoga that emphasizes on the energy flow of the body through vibration, tapping, different postures. This is the type of yoga that I do. This form of yoga had come to the United States in the mid-'80s, and it just resonated with me. The energy flow of the body is just so important to open up those channels, to help with the stretching and the postures. And once you're doing all that, you are then helping your mind to clear. So it truly does bring together the body and the brain. We do a lot of brain training with this type of yoga, in which you're training your brain. You're the boss of your brain. You are. And when you become the empowerment of training your brain and also helping your body coincide with that, that's where true healing comes into play. That's where you become the master, where your body is not me, but it's mine. Your emotions are not me, but it's mine. So these are things that you're owning, but they don't have to define you. So paying attention to connecting our mind and body is just so important, because in our Western world, we look at it as two distinct entities, that the mind and body exist as different entities. So with dualism. And, there are times when that becomes, part of the ego, and then you got your brain and your heart, both at odds with each other. What's stronger, your brain or your heart? Well, we do know the heart has a lot of energy and is very, very strong, stronger than our brains. But we see the worlds we live in, that a lot of times this is where we're living all the time, right in our brains. And all those preconceptions and beliefs then can transcend to our body. So the mind produces the preconception of pain and promotes healing. Mind, body, and spirit should be one functioning unit and working as the life force energy moving through our bodies. And as I mentioned before, the 7 chakras, the energy centers of our body. And with the yoga practice that I do, we concentrate on different chakras, and we do things such as tapping, such as doing certain meditations on these different energy centers. And why? Because we want to open them up, and we want to feel the vibration throughout our body. And vibration could be things like tingling, actually feeling the energy course through your body. And when we meditate, we're restoring that balance. And meditation, really the definition is no thoughts. No thoughts. You can have thoughts that run through your mind, but just let them run through and go. But when you're meditating, you want to have no thoughts and just let the mind clear out. The stretching benefits, as I had mentioned before, increases flexibility. It enhances blood flow to the muscles and our microcirculation, which is very, very important. At the microcirculation level, this is where you get a lot of transfusion of both oxygenated, deoxygenated blood, and also detoxification. So when you're enhancing blood flow to your muscles and different organ areas, then you're helping with the healing of your body. And then injury prevention is very important. So stretching improves your posture, stress release, relief. When you're stretching, you want to really make note of your body and become aware of where these areas are hurting. You know, do you have a shoulder problem, an elbow problem, a back problem? And then you want to zone in on that area and breathe through it and help to visualize that you're healing that area. And that can be very, very powerful, along with, of course, maybe some liniments or oils, or different other modalities we may use, maybe even CBD oil, different things like that. But stretching is very important prior to doing postures because you do not want to injure yourself. Also, if you have, say, high blood pressure, then you may want to curtail some of the postures in which you are putting your head down for long periods of time. If you have problems with your knees, you may not want to be bouncing on your knee. You may want to then bend it and put it in a position to where it's more stable. So people have to realize that there is, when you have an instructor that will know different types of issues that you have, that's what, you know, the members usually will tell me, you know, I will make sure to go over to them and then help them to modify, because you're working within your condition. So if you work within your condition, essentially anyone can do yoga. Even if you cannot stand for long periods of time, you can still do yoga in a chair, or you can do the majority of it on a mat. So there's a wide variety of postures, beginner to advanced, and then a person's flexibility is all individualized. I'm not the most flexible person in the world, and there are certain positions I will probably not be able to do in this lifetime, but I make do, and I can stand up there, and people that can, that's great, you know, but if you cannot, then that's okay too. So you need to be customized to respect your own condition, especially if you have, you know, low back pain, it's so rampant, different arthritic problems, reduced range of motion. Even with your shoulders, you have rotator cuff problems, we can then modify that. But still, something has to be done in order to, you know, get the body in that flexibility mode where you can prevent against having further injury. So this is a very, very good healing modality. Teachers has to discuss their issues with the members and clients, formulate a it should be custom, workout regimen, and during that discuss the modifications that can be made. And then I would say overall people, they're much more accepting of how the benefits of yoga can be if they can match their overall body condition. Once again, people say, oh, I'm not going to go to yoga, I'm just not flexible. Well, that's why you should go to yoga. It's because you want to get some degree of flexibility as well as help to prevent against further problems, such as the arthritis getting worse, or improving your range of motion. And the discipline can still be challenging because you can work towards certain goals. You know, I know where I was 10 years ago and where I am now, so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the, you know, the progress that I've made over the years. And yeah, I still have a long way to go, depending on how my body will resist or not. So essentially anyone can do some form of yoga, and then to know more, just contact me for any questions, and this is my information. So thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you so much, Denise. Now I'd like to open it up for questions. Denise, you've given us an amazing overview of yoga. And I had no idea there were all these different types of yoga. I knew there was more than one type, but I didn't know so extensively as what you've shared, and how each one is customized to a certain situation that people might face. And so I want to thank you for that. Now, how did you get into yoga?
Well, actually, because I was very ill about 10 years ago. So it all had to stem back to my current health situation at that
Mhm.
time. And my body was essentially falling apart. And I was becoming pre-diabetic. I had high blood pressure. I had heart problems. And instead of going the traditional medical route, when I went to the cardiologist, they said, well, and I said, well, put your prescription pad away. I'm going to go to yoga and I'll see you in 3 months and let me see how I do.
How did they react to that?
Well, she was fine with it. She was
Uh,
a colleague of mine,
uh-huh.
and no, she said that's fine. She said I think you really need to have you reduce your stress level because it was like off the charts. I also was about 35 pounds heavier, and someone of only being 5 foot tall. That's entirely I was had too much weight on me. And so it was just one of those snowball things. That's why I was pre-diabetic, high blood pressure, my knees hurt. I mean, so then I started the yoga practice. And this type of yoga that I do is the one that was closest to my home. And so I just went there and I said, I'm here. I'm here to learn and to be, mentored. And I've gone through a lot of workshops, including going to the yoga master course, in which I was in Sedona for 9 days, and that was just a wonderful experience. All our workshops were in Sedona, and what I've learned, and also learned about myself, and just everything. It just becomes this whole transformation that's happening. And I think that has just, this was the start for me, was the yoga.
Hmm. So you treated it like medicine,
Hmm.
and it lowered your stress,
Yes.
which dealt with the high blood pressure. How long did it take to bring the blood pressure down? I mean, like you were probably had a blood pressure cuff and you were checking your blood pressure, and what when did you begin to notice that this was actually helping you?
About 3 months in, 3, 4 months.
Hmm.
It took a while. It took a while, then also to shed some of the weight off, and then also with the eating habits, and then just really get into a routine of going to the class at least 3, 4 times a week. At the time, my daughters were still they were younger, they were at home. I had my practice. It was just, but I had to fill it in. I had to do something for myself. That's where the self-care comes in that I
Mhm.
had not done. And I knew how important it was for me to do that, because if I didn't do it for myself, then I wasn't going to be around much longer. So I had to do that. But I fit it in. I fit in going to class 3 to 4 times a week, because that's really what's recommended if you're going to go to class or even do things at home. Nowadays, pretty much I do, every morning I do my routine, depending on my time. And then I go to class at least, 3, 4 times a week. And then, depending on if I teach or not. So,
Well, I can see where yoga would help with stress reduction, which would in turn help with high blood pressure. But what was the process how did yoga help you with pre-diabetes?
with losing the weight.
How does yoga help you lose weight?
Well, when you're doing the stretching, you're actually, you're detoxifying. You're
Hmm.
detoxifying and making sure that you're drinking enough water.
Hmm.
Also tea. I did a lot of the healing teas that the yoga master had there, and that also helped to purify. And then also your mind, you start to change that mindset. And I found myself not craving the foods that I would, like, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, oh, let me have a chocolate bar, or I'll have, bag of potato chips, or, really I was not eating properly at all. And so being in with the yoga, you think about, no, I want to eat healthier. I want to get healthier snacks. That sort of thing started happening over time. You just started to crave certain things.
So yoga is not just an hour of stretching. Yoga is like an entire lifestyle transformation.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've seen so many members over the years and how they've transformed. And first, they start to feel good about themselves because they are shedding the weight. They're sleeping better. Uh, they're also not getting sick as much. Maybe their immune system has also been improved because they are helping the energy flow in the body, and the cells are becoming happier. So it's all part of that, and it's the accountability and the support. And when we go to the class and people gather, then it's a support group as well,
Mm.
and that's very big, as well as having the support group, and then people encouraging one another. When you see someone that's like say 20 years older than me, and they're really doing a great job at the postures and all that, you kind of feel like, well, I can do that too. And look at them. So it's all a support a support group as well.
Well, I have to
Very.
say, in taking your classes, that I was pleasantly surprised at how different it was from all the yoga I'd been doing before, because I think I've been more into hatha yoga. And so it was very different, but I was like, wow. And I felt so good afterwards that I actually am glad I came in when I did. I wish I'd heard the whole thing, but in listening to that it was Korean,
Korean.
it's a Korean, I was surprised. I didn't know that. I knew it was different, and I had done some of that type of work before in other healing modality type situations, but I really enjoyed it. It was very, very good for me, and I could feel the energy flowing in my body a lot better after having the sessions with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Other questions or comments for Denise? We've got the guru here. Take advantage.
What exactly is when you say you do a routine in the morning? Is it like an hour long, a 30-minute, 15-minute, just something to kind of wake the body up, but based on
Oh, yeah,
what we were
I
doing
go
in?
for 20 to 30 minutes. I'll do
Okay.
20 to 30 minutes. I start off and I do tapping. Tapping is very, as you've seen in my class. Tapping is, I start up at the crown of the head and we go all the way down to the toes. And tapping has been done in Asian culture forever. And basically what you're doing is you're tapping along the meridian channels, the highways of your energy, and also you're tapping on the acupressure points. And you're waking everything up. You're getting the blood moving. You're getting the energy flowing. So I do the tapping, and then I start to do some stretching, in which I will start at my around my neck, and then I will work down. And so by me doing that and the stretching, and then do some mat work with different type of stretching with my lower legs, and doing some, um, what else do we do? Oh, let's see, sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll also utilize, we have something known as a wooden pillow, and I'm able to put that on my lower back, and that will help quite a bit with the muscles with that, and that's also from Korea. So I do a variety of things, but yeah, basically it's all to stretch. And then I will do some postures, and postures are good in order for you to gather energy. Um, Whether you're doing a posture like a sleeping tiger posture, your legs are up, your arms are up, that sort of thing to gather energy. So that's about it, about 20 minutes to half hour.
Nice. Okay. I'm not as disciplined.
Well, the thing is I feel no matter where I am, I have to do some stretching or something in the morning. If I miss a day, and we were away this past weekend, and I woke up on, we had to be at the graduation very early in the morning, and I didn't do anything. By that night, I felt like some throbbing in my legs
Wow.
and just because I didn't do anything, and you just feel, and I was sitting majority of the day. And I usually just don't sit all day long. I'm moving and getting around. So so once you get out of that, even for a day or so, you really feel it. So it's
Yeah.
something that you just have to keep doing and doing. That's really the way it is.
That's interesting. You're describing addiction.
A healthy
You know,
addiction.
yeah, healthy addiction,
Yeah,
definitely.
Because
exactly.
we're just addictive creatures anyway. We just have to choose our addictions, right?
Yep, exactly.
So, for those of us who do physical exercise well, I know yoga is also physical exercise. I'm not saying that's not, but let's say weightlifting, running, uh, some kind of traditional sports exercise. I'm a runner. And so my waking up in the morning is within 45 minutes, I'm outside in, at least nowadays, in about 40 degrees weather, running 6 miles. And I sometimes, listening to you, it causes me to ask myself, I feel like it's waking me up. I feel like it's waking my body, which you talk about waking your body up and being aware. Um, and I get into a runner's state of mind, which is a kind of meditative state because you've got the steady rhythm of running and breathing and I don't use a radio or earphones when I'm running, so I'm just totally immersed in the environment and my thoughts. But what am I missing by not doing yoga?
Do you stretch?
I do stretch, yes, before. And well, not before, actually, in the middle sometimes of my runs, but mostly lately after a run. I'll do a number of stretches. Usually, though, they're like the traditional touch your toes. I bend my knees. I put my head to my knee. I'll sit up and then bend over and touch my toes with my legs straight up to almost up to my wrist.
Mhm.
And then I'll hold that. And so I stretch, but what am I missing? I feel like there's something going on there that is, if I were to add something, what would that be?
Well, maybe, how about with your upper body? Do you stretch your upper body?
I do stretch my arms
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little, but not a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what you could also do is incorporate, um, like say, for example, when you're doing arms, you can actually do things such as, the arm rolls, or,
Mhm.
you can do more movement with the stretching.
Mhm.
You could do more movement. Um, and especially doing like, hip rotations and stretching of the low back more. Uh, that sort of thing.
But you're talking about energy meridians
Yeah.
and being aware of an energy flow. Now that whole thing is totally foreign to anything that I do on a regular basis.
Yeah, because really what you're doing is, I think when you do things such as the tapping,
Hmm.
that stimulates. And then there's also stimulation of the brain stem back here, which is a very interesting. It's very simple to do because you're just going back and forth with your neck. You're stimulating the brain stem. You're getting the healing properties going, because the brain stem is responsible for your, your breathing, your heart rate, things that you don't think about. So that's another way of doing it, along with the tapping. So that all helps to get the energy flow going better. So if you did something like the tapping in the morning and doing the vibration of the brain stem, that's that sort of thing.
I think a lot of the exercise that people do is gets into a narrow repetitive motion, and then you get repetitive motion injuries. And what you're talking about is something that's much more global with your body. You have musicians getting repetitive motion injuries, people that sit at a desk and type all day getting carpal tunnel, and I have a feeling that a lot of this could be avoided if people looked at their whole body and not just focus on a part. But it's just a thought.
Well, I believe too, we see in the sports world that there's a lot of injuries, and it would be very interesting to see how many of them actually do stretch and do some form of yoga, that they're really, muscular, and they do a lot of weightlifting, powerlifting, all these different types of routines. But really the basis is, do they do stretching? Do they do, we've seen there are some athletes that are very dedicated to doing that sort of thing, whether they do a yoga practice or they do stretching every day, or they do, and you see that there's less injury. So
I'd say one turning point to me came when I was getting a lot of injuries as a runner, and mostly in my knees, and so somebody told me about runners yoga, and there's actually yoga for runners, and I'm just wondering if so I Googled that, and I found all these yoga exercises, and I do some of them. Those are some of the stretches that I do, and that did make a big difference. That eliminated one of my worst knee injuries that had been hanging on for years, and coming back and then going away, coming back. And I wonder if you could actually Google, if you're a tennis player, yoga for tennis players, yoga for swimmers. I mean, I wonder if there's a yoga for every sport, which would be an interesting thing. Anyway,
it makes it interesting, I think, because like recently I did a chair yoga class, which I didn't think would be, I thought, oh, I'll just go because as a friend of mine is teaching it, and I just want to see what it's like. But I actually used other muscles, and the stretching was different, and and I could feel that I was using muscles I hadn't been using. And I thought it was just simple chair yoga class, but it was actually very strengthening for me when I looked at it. And the same thing when I started doing Denise's classes, it was different, but you can feel such a difference because, like you say, David, you get used to doing a sports or like me hiking. I like to hike, but it's still a lot of lower body, and it's not a lot of stretching or moving. It's just walking, and so you are using other muscles that you maybe wouldn't normally use that might actually benefit the core,
Very good.
And that brings up another thing that maybe we didn't hit upon, is your core strengthening. So important to have a strong core, because with a strong core, you're improving your posture. You're eliminating a lot of stress with the low back. It just helps your overall, body itself. So really, core strengthening is very, very important. And that's I think all the forms of yoga really do bring that to the surface as well.
Hmm.
And that's important, that core. And then also, the waist and the, when you get older and you get that, people get that bulge and different
Mhm.
things like that. There are things that we can do in yoga classes that help you with that,
Oh, wow.
to help that bulge. And a lot of it does come from strengthening your core and the muscles,
Mhm.
and detoxifying the body.
Very good. Any other questions for Denise? Okay, well, Denise, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
definitely, we've got your phone number here in front of us and your email. And you're having an event this
Yes,
Sunday
this
or
Saturday.
Saturday?
This
Yeah.
Saturday, December 14th, from 3:30 to 5:30. It's a 2-hour workshop in which we have hypno energy yoga. And what we have is yoga for the first hour. And the second hour, we have hypnotherapy. So myself and Lawyer Riggin, which is also part of our health team, will be doing the workshop. So contact me for more information, and we'll go from there.
Hypno yoga. That's amazing. Okay, very good. Okay, and just to give you an idea what's coming up, um, in on January 8th will be our next webinar. So we're taking a break for almost a month during the holidays, and on January 8th, I'll be doing a webinar entitled "A New Diet for a Non-Disposable Body."
Mhm.
And this comes from my background is in theology. I was a pastor uh, for 12 years, and spirituality has always been of top importance to me since I was 5 years old, where I had my first childhood memories, and all the way through my life. And recently, in the past 20 years, I've been asking myself, I've been moving from a traditional religious stance, which was my Presbyterian heritage and where I was a pastor, to a more spiritual and kind of a broader based thinking. And spending a lot of time in the wilderness, and I asked myself, I've been asking myself the question for over 20 years, if there were no tradition, there was no all these layers of tradition that come with religion. You need to believe this, and this is the way things are in the spiritual world. Um, this is what God is. This is how we were created. This is where we started. This is where we're going in the future. This is what life beyond our our present life is. This is what worlds are beyond our present world. Traditional religion has a lot of answers and a lot of tradition that has built up so much over time that I began to ask myself, what if we started all over? And what would be some core foundational principles that go across all religions, all faith groups, that might be discovered by someone just wandering in the wilderness, the first person ever to ask those questions, throwing out everything that has ever been presented and taught in religion through all of history. And it's hard to remove yourself from that, but I came up with 8 foundational core principles. And I'll be presenting those that are the results of my 20 years wandering, the past 20 years. And also the question, we see our bodies as disposable, that we're living in bodies that we plan to burn out in 70 to 100 years if we're really long lived. And so we act in a certain way, living in those disposable bodies, that maybe we would act differently if we felt these bodies were non-disposable. What kind of choices would we make about what we take in terms of our diet, our thoughts, our relationships, our attitudes? What would we do differently if we felt we were in a non-disposable body and we were building not for the next, and not for a mere 70 to 90 years, but for 500, 1,000 years? So taking all that into account, I'll be presenting some thoughts, and I'd be very interested in your feedback.